a very warm welcome and a very hearty welcome to all of you from the team at the Radio Festival. We are extremely delighted and honored to have you all amongst us. We know that you all are doing very, very different kind of work, though you are under the umbrella of, let's say, a common category, which can be defined as either podcasting or more so, as I would like to call it, the online audio space. But even despite all that, the work that is being done by all of you is not just varied, not just diverse. It is kind of setting benchmarks in its own way. And we are very happy to have all of you as a part of the Radio Festival 2021. And thank you for taking out the time and for doing this and being a part of our panel. So I'll start off by introducing our moderator, and then he can take on from there. So our moderator for this session is Sri Raman Tyagarajan. He is the CEO and co-founder of Avaz.com. He has been in the intersection of technology and content for over a decade, and he was also formerly the vice president of Publicis India. Sri Raman has been associated with us in the last edition of the festival as well. And we are very glad to have you again amidst us, Sri Raman. And now I will just hand over the mic to you, and so that you can take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikita. Hello, my fellow panelists. Hello, Rohan. Hello, Padma. Hello, Piyush. Hello, Kiran. And hello, Amar. Each one of you, your work talks for yourself. I think the brands you have built are far bigger than the individual names. So people know more of a Gatha story. People know more of a, the Subhashitam. People know more of the Suno India and all the shows of Piyush and Amar, or even Rohan Epilogue. So welcome, and let's start. Radio Festival is a time to celebrate audio. And, there's a lot of people out there asking the same question and again and again. Video is big, will audio has any future, etc. Let's not focus on proving them. Rather, let's take time to celebrate audio today. And I would really appreciate if each one of you could share some insights you have learned from your audience on why they love your product, and what really got you into the audio business, and what is that your audience really love and you're serving them. So Kiran, you want to go first? I think you have the largest titles of Telugu books. So what does your audience love about your product?
Thank you, Sri Raman, and thank you, Radio Festival, for inviting me. I think primarily our audience loves the language, right? Let's start there, right? Although we are for-profit company, I think the single most encomium that we've got is that we are doing something to preserve our language. There is a debate about how Telugu people like Telugu or less Telugu than most other languages. My personal experience is, we can talk about it later, because I know something about Kannadigas, Tamilians, and Telugus. But primarily, what people love about us is that we are, doing something for the language. Then the love for literature comes in, right? So they like the selection of titles. Again, we are going by whatever is popular. There's nothing that we are inventing there, right? There are classics, and you have to have them, right? So they like that too, right? So those are the only two things that stand out. And third thing is that they like stability of the app. Basically what happens is for various reasons, again, we can go into each one of them. Vernacular apps traditionally have been crappy, for lack of a better word. So they like that for the first time, there is an app that is stable enough and gives a reasonably good enough experience. Not that, we are doing everything right. There are problems in our apps, but we are trying to solve them one at a time. But those are the three things that stand out for me about my audience.
Thanks, Kiran. Amar, what do you think? What's the one or two things your audience love about audio and your product?
Okay, I was actually looking up for lyrics of a particular song, which I think summarizes your question very well. And that was Queen's song, radio, someone still loves you, right? Similarly, we must say that audio, someone still loves you. And the lines, I think, that really would actually, you had your time. No, podcasting or audio storytelling in whatever format. Its time is yet to come. It's coming, right? You've had the power. Yeah, the power is coming now with more democratization, two-way communication, exchanges, and so on. And you're yet to have your finest hour. I mean, absolutely yet to have the finest hour. We got into this, the space around 2016 when most people did not even know what podcasting was. And at least now that question is not getting asked. So that's a great testimony to the evolution of the market, number one, right? Number two was that, it's a chicken and egg problem. Without great content, you'll not find audience. If you have audience and you don't keep feeding them new content, they will just, go away elsewhere. So there is an audience for audio. There is an audience for video. And going back to school mathematics, there is a Venn diagram, the intersection of both, right? There's an audience who's going to consume both. Now, you can't really compete with video. Your best bet is to find that intersection, because those are the ones who are digitally native, so to speak. For them, audio becomes an add-on, right? And then comes, I think, the next part wherein finding the right content which will create the connect with them. Yeah, I think we started out, originally Gatha Story started out as a interview-based show for authors, My Kitab, which is still around 5 years later. But what we really realized was that for the medium to grow, storytelling, particularly kids storytelling, is a space where we need to be. And I think, as we go on, we would be happy to talk more about that. But that's the thing, find the ears for your voice, for your sound, hopefully not the noise. And I think that's a way forward for the medium.
Right. Piyush, you have seen some action on air and on demand podcast. So what's your takeaway? What does our audience love about audio experiences?
Sri, thank you first of all, for inviting me here. And thank you all my fellow panelists for taking out time. See, I have been into the audio business since 2005. I'm a radio host. I started 2005. My inspiration was always, and I have a lot of movie references because I'm a movie buff. So my first reference about radio, when I had nobody in my family ever understood radio, or nobody belonged to this medium, the audio medium, my first interface was Robin Williams when he said, "Good morning, Vietnam," right? And I think that stayed with me. And unlike the other people, I'm just not because I'm into the audio medium, I still feel that audio medium is the biggest and the most strongest medium. And I have reasons for that. In radio, when you're taught in your initial years of induction and hygiene, it is said, it was used as a term, a phrase that was to somehow help you understand, no, it's not that strong a medium, but I look at the other side of it, that it's a passive medium. And audio medium is a passive medium, and that's the strength of audio, right? For example, if you have to read a book or read a newspaper or watch TV, you have to actually be there in that very moment. And that's where the power of radio comes. With the advent of the audios like the radios, FMs in the mobile, it was revolutionized. And now with podcasts that are coming in, I think it has gone a step ahead. And like in radio, people say that, okay, after this song, there'll be an ad break, then it'll come. So people tune in, tune off, but not with podcasting. And that's why I believe it's the strongest medium. I have examples. I believe that audio was always very strong during the Second World War. The propaganda started with radio. They understood the power of the medium, and Joseph Goebbels started that. And like that's a different story altogether. But if we just tie ourselves to this very thought that how strong is the medium, it has now started reaching the nooks and corners of the country. I think it has a great future. It's just that when a Dil Se comes, and when people start talking about Chaiya Chaiya, because it's such a shining song, people tend to at times not figure out the value of a Tu Hi Tu Satrangi Re, right? It's that. Because the TV is so flashy, and print is somehow it's considered, because age-old thing, age-old medium. Audio was left behind, but thanks to COVID, I have to say, I'm sorry, but sounding like this, but thanks to COVID, people have. I was reading a news report in the last quarter of the last year that there are almost 40 million podcast listeners in India, and that's not a small number. It's just a matter of time that we start, the media fraternity, the media planners start looking at it as a revenue source, and it's a very strong revenue source. And as far as the listenership is concerned, how people do react to it, people take it like really. It's like, you remember the time of pen pals, right? Nobody knew each other.
Absolutely,
This is
absolutely, yeah.
like pen pals.
That's a very good analogy, Piyush. Thanks for so much. Uh, Padma, you have been creating some impact stories there, and for example, in visual medium, you can show the impact in certain ways. You can show something, some, you can show the change happening, right? Either you show a problem, then the change. But audio is very really a very poignant medium for it. But I want to hear from you that what does your audience love about your audio experience?
Thank you so much, the Radio Festival, for having me here again. And a big hello to all my fellow panelists and to the moderator. With regards to what the audience loves about, I think, the work that we do. So we've always had a very clear vision that we will stay in the space of highlighting stories which are underreported and underrepresented. And for us, podcasting is a medium where we are almost passing the mic back on to the people. We are letting people tell their stories. And I think that's been our biggest, the biggest sort of source of energy for us. And also the biggest impact that we get is because of that. What people like about our content is that we are doing these. So a lot of our content is deep dives. We take one issue and we do deep dives into it. And we look at an issue from a very 360-degree angle. So it's very nuanced. It's not like he said, she said, this person is right, that person is wrong. No, I mean, there are always grace for every issue. And I think that's something that we have managed to do with our multitude of shows. And with regards to, we do have storytelling shows, and even our storytelling shows are different in the way that the stories are original. They're original and they're contemporary for children, and they're aimed at sort of educating children about the environment around them in a fun way. And we have a very good show in Hindi, which is focusing on the lesser known careers and, the lesser known professions around us. And that gets us a lot of listeners too. So I think for us, what listeners like about the work that we do and what we always constantly get as feedback is the value add that we're doing to their lives. And I think that's what keeps us going constantly as a platform and as a team.
Rohan, I have a different question for you.
Sure.
I mean, we are celebrating audio here, and this voice, video, vernacular, these three words are people act like they're just how Newton discovered gravity now, right?
Yeah.
It's very insightful for many that India is a land of different languages, and you need to play in vernacular. I mean, the term is questionable. Maybe we will use the word regional languages instead of vernacular. So
Indian languages. So
yes,
what
Indian
we use
languages.
is Indian language.
Absolutely. So there's nothing new about creating content in Indian languages. I mean, look at all the TV channels that are 25 years old. They have been doing it, and they make like 3,000, 4,000 crore. Sun TV, Star TV, some 7,000 crore of revenue, so on. Now, it's no secret that any content in India has to be in Indian languages. But there is some more. There is a lot to win in that, right? It takes a lot more than just creating content in a local language, because it could be a dialect, it could be cultural issue, it could be the treatment. For example, a Devdutt Patnaik's Mahabharat could be very different from, Ramanand Sagar kind of a treatment towards your mythology. So, what's been your experiences, Rohan, in terms of winning in regional languages? I mean, it's very evident that we need to build in regional languages, but what does it take?
So one is, of course, audio as a platform is very powerful, like every one of them have said it. But the reason why one of the reason is that we help people take off from the screen. So that is very important in today's time. So that is one thing which all of us, in fact, have been able to do is uh, turn off the screen and put on your headphones and transport to a new world. Now, that is something that we all have been able to do, and why it works is because what we are trying to provide to them. So that is one of the key places where each and every one of us comes into picture, and how can differentiate each content. Like you mentioned, Devdutt Patnaik's Mahabharat can be different. There can be a lot of like there are open source content. Everyone has a different adaptation. How we do it is important. How we package is important, and how we deliver it to the people, that is also important. So some of the things that we have been able to is, like I mentioned just before we actually started, that we took an example of a current podcast that we have had about sharing stories of change makers, how they have been doing it. People like you and me just sitting at home doing something that can be meaningful. Uh, if if we take these stories and share stories of people who are not able to communicate in a global language, what difference does it make? uh, all the language that be it Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati, we Indians are desi, so how much ever English someone may speak or kuch bhi kar le, at the end of the day, if they want to cuss or if they want to speak at home, it will be in their it will be in their mother tongue. So that's where we have been able to provide value.
Right. Thanks, Rohan. Amar, what other insights do you have when it comes to creating content in regional languages?
I was, Piyush mentioned about some great movie analogies. Before I answer the question that you asked me, I have to tell you this. This whole rediscovery or first time discovery of vernacular or regional content, Hollywood's been doing that for years. Okay. When filmmakers from India are going to Japan and China, there is a Spider-Man of Tobey Maguire, which was released in Bhojpuri. Okay, they have the number. I mean, all we have to do is follow them. They've spent the money, they've done the market research, they
Yeah.
know what languages work. And then obviously you got all the data and analytics coming from Amazon Prime. Look at, don't even subscribe to it, go to their website, see what are the top 4 or 5 or 6 languages. That's all you have to start creating content as a starting point. Choose and pick one and go from there, right? So that's a not so secret sauce. Now comes the real difficult part, adaptation. Okay. If your setting is in northern India, in Hindi, and it's Mahua is probably the setting or the environment or tree or something like that. Now you're bringing that story and translating that into Kannada. Please find a local tree. Please find a local context. A bablu and a gudiya may work very well in certain parts of the country. It has to be a more regional, more localized setting. Even going down to what they eat, even going down to what festival is being celebrated, etc. Right? So it's not a matter of putting your script into Google Translate or Microsoft Bing or whatever and getting the output and having it proofread by someone who claim that they are an expert or an editor in language X of your choice. The context is going to be important. Second, send it out to text audience. And this has been a great learning for us, when we were doing, particularly in Kannada, right? Apparently there are 6 different dialects of Kannada. So one of our narrators, no, this one sounds more Kurgi than, coming from Mysore Kannada. And then somebody else coming and telling, no, it's got a blend of Marathi also because the narrator was from Hubli Dharwad area, right? It'll get difficult as the audience for that particular language will grow. They will actually want to find that connect. And we got this feedback incidentally for Telugu. Okay, the lady was from the coastal districts, the narrator, and the feedback we got was, oh, this sounds just the way my grandmother used to sound. Yeah, so finding that right voice, and no pun intended, it's going to be your most difficult challenge when it comes to execution. Okay, and as you add more languages to your mix, to our respective mixes, I think the key there is going to be is probably getting that validation. Is this sounding right? Again, no pun intended. We're in the sound business, so every analogy that we give, there's got to be a little bit of humor involved in it. So that is going to be important. Just because, again, one content or piece of content worked in a particular context does not mean it'll work everywhere. So be very choosy and be very selective, and be ready to step back if it's not working out for you. It
Correct
doesn't mean
ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ
that,
ಸರ್.
yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to be available in every language. Keep your benchmark as all 14 or 15 languages as at the back of the currency notes. Okay, but when it comes to implementation, do what currency works best for you. Yeah, I'll stop with that.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ಸರ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಸೈಟ್ಸ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು.
Thank you.
I'm just saying he said it very well, and all the insights were useful in Kannada. Just going with the flow of what he started. Kiran, a slightly different question for you. Yeah, Kiran, you wanted to add something? Please do.
Yeah. So the other dimension to that point that we were discussing before is that even style, right? I've seen some audience like, actually we've seen it with artists more than audience, right? Some artists want to live in the characters. It's like one style is to enact it, like actors, like voice actors. The other style is to just narrate it in a way that is storytelling, right? So we stick to the latter, right? Because it's from a production point of view, it is impossible to find talent that can enact it completely. And also, if you're going that route, then you would have to, put some more frills in that production, where like using follies and things like that. So the styles are also a matter of differentiation, I think, in content creation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kiran. Piyush, you have been at it for a long time. What insights do you have when it comes to creating content in Indian languages?
I believe that I belong to Hindi heartland. I'm from the promised land, Uttar Pradesh. So, so we have a phrase here: "Kos par badle pani." Like with every a certain unit of distance, the dialects change the way a Hindi is said from a Western UP to a Eastern UP. And as you move towards Delhi, there is this rudeness or kind of that. I feel that as Amar, taking a cue from Amar and mixing it with Vijay Setupathy's cue, like I'm just mixing it. The thing is that, when it comes to languages and the kind of content that you're creating, at the end of it, we are Indians, right? The first, let's clear the filters. As Indians, we think in our heads in our native language, we convert it into English, and then we speak. Right. The same way when it enters our head, it gets first filtered into a Tamil or a Telugu or a Kannada or a Malayalam, and then it enters our brain, and via that our heart. So that's the basic filter I follow. And then after that, yes, a Bhojpuri or a dialect of a Eastern UP would be different from a Western UP, or from a Marathi Hindi would be different from a Northern Indian Delhi Hindi. So my first filter is, I believe as a content creator, that there are certain lowest hanging fruits as far as the content is concerned in different genres. So I keep on going through the research and everything, what sells, what's not. I'm talking to the platforms, the people who are owning those platforms, and what is working for them, what is not working for them. And there's a certain experiential learning that I've had over the years. Based on that, I have been creating content. And then, yes, as Amar said, that this dialect is different from that dialect. There's a very thin line, I believe. See, audio is the theater of mind. You close your eyes and you hear, and if it's not as per your own dialect, you'll think it's tad bit alien, right? But and it might take a few seconds to register and connect with you. But say, for example, as Amar was saying, a Kannada dialect, or for example, a Tamil dialect, if you go close to Chennai, there's a different kind of a dialect. And if you are away from Chennai, there's a different kind of. So yes, people would take time, people would take time to connect and gulp the entire content. But yes, if there's a certain basic filter of a language, of a vernacular language, a native language, it will reach them. You as a content creator, it won't be possible for you to reach every nook and corner and please everybody.
That's a very important point. Yes, you cannot create something for everyone, right? You need to start with one niche or one cohort of audience and then grow your base to it. Yeah, well said, Piyush. Uh, Padma, I have a very question, but it's the inverse of it. So far, our panel has been sharing what to do. Tell us some of the things one should not do or avoid, or the mistakes one should avoid when creating content in Indian languages.
So, I mean, I'm a journalist by training, so I think I'll start off with that by saying that one of the things that we should definitely avoid doing is spread more misinformation than is already out there. And I think that's a huge concern for me. Increasingly, as podcasts obviously are becoming more and more, it will also become a source of misinformation. I think there is the medium is so powerful, and it is in that sense literacy agnostic, right? So you don't need to. It's like a visual medium. You don't need to know how to read or write to understand that. So I feel like the power in it lies in actually giving the sort of right information at the right time to people. So definitely that would be my big sort of red flag that I would raise for content creators, which is if you are going to put out good, content out there, whatever genre you take, history, environment, whatever, but just make sure that you are doing your research well. I think something that you also spoke about Chhatrapati Shivaji, for example, right? I mean, one mistake and then it can actually turn into a bigger discussion than is required. So for me, I think the power of our languages actually lies in its strength and its adaptability in spreading and communicating the right sort of a message. And I'll give you an example on how we actually used Indian languages during the pandemic. I think our Telugu show, the news show, we used it a lot to do a bit of myth busting around the initial COVID myths that were coming around. And that one episode garnered a lot of shares, garnered a lot of feedback. People are very happy to hear something on podcast medium, myth busting some of the more popular rumors that were going around. It got shared very widely among the WhatsApp groups. So I think for us, it's really important to, even as content creators, be responsible with what we are putting out there. And that would be my biggest sort of like, thing, that if you are creating content, whichever language, even English, but more so in Indian languages, because reach is greater, please make sure that it's fact checked. Please try and not spread disinformation and misinformation. And as somebody used, I think, Joseph Goebbels' name here, I mean, we don't want to be creating Radio Rawandas here. I think it's really, really important for us to keep that in mind too, about the role that audio as a medium can also play. So yeah.
Thanks, Padma. That's quite an appeal, and I think we all will take that pledge, and I think our audience will join us in taking that pledge of never spreading misinformation. Very, very insightful. I mean, it sounds so obvious, but how many times do we ask ourselves, hey, am I even representing correctly? So am I misrepresenting even by mistake? So great one there. Okay, let's move to a next question, which is, this interactive audio is all the rage. I mean, there is Clubhouse has been at it for some 8 months now. Our Indian homegrown app called Leher allows you to do that. Zuckerberg joined Clubhouse 1 week ago, and today they are already working on a Clubhouse clone. Twitter introduced Spaces. So, podcast has been there for like 20 years now. Radio has been there for some 100 years now. What's new with this interactive audio, right? This is one aspect that a lot of podcast listeners said, okay, there is actually an internet meme where there is a poster of two girls eating ice cream, and there's a boy eating ice cream looking at the poster, and the caption reads as this is what listening to podcasts feels like, because he has two people in front of him, which is a poster, and he's also eating ice cream with them. Now the idea is people want to drop into those instant conversations and be part of those moments, right? What do you think? Do we have a big scope for interactive audio experiences? What do you think will be the scene in India? Rohan, you can go first if you want.
Sure. One thing that I feel is um, it depends on the kind of content that you are dealing with. So something where you are having a conversation, or something where it's something very raw. So I feel that is something which can work as an interactive medium. But apart from that, that is just like taking things virtually. But there can be some interactive sessions in say in a group as well. Like there like Facebook has something called as watch party. I think Prime Video also introduced something like that. So I think if apps are also audio apps are introducing something like that, there can be watch party or listener party where people are listening to simultaneous content, listening to content simultaneously. So that can be something like that can be a possibility. Apart from that, people sitting together and listening to a podcast together, or and then having a discussion on it, and who knows, maybe they can start a podcast about that podcast.
That day would come very soon, Rohan. Piyush, RJs have been typically the instigators of conversation. They give a very engaging topic that hooks you into the show, and then you ask people to call and discuss. All this has been done for years now. What do you think of this entire interactive audio experiences? Do you think it'll be a big hit in India?
I think so, yes, because in India, everybody has an opinion. That's the beauty of democracy, and that's the weakness of a democracy. But like going away from it, everybody has an opinion, and when you, it just takes you to throw the right question at them. Um, like there are different formats. There's a hybrid format. There's a solo format in podcasting. There's an interview format, and there's this double DJ format. And so I think this is a very until and unless this technical side of podcasting comes in, where real time feedbacks are available right there. Like it happens in a Facebook Live. You can see the feedbacks of people talking to you, saying hi to you. Oh, I like this. I don't like this. Until unless that comes. I would love to see people give feedbacks. My experience says that a lot of people do get back to you when you leave. Okay, it's like the postcard thing. Please drop a message from the Surabhi days, right? Those were the postcard days. People do get back to you, but it is yet to be seen how quick they get back to you, because once in a while when they're listening, like as Rohan said, it's a group session. Everybody is listening to a certain thing and they're discussing about it, and probably they start a podcast that's ages from now. This I think also people would love to, from my experience, but they have to get a hang of it. See, TikTok revolutionized technology, gaon dehat, like the rural people. We used to think that, oh, I mean, how are they going to work around this? But they did, right? And so if that kind of a technology reaches people, who knows, people are opinionated, people hear something, people might dislike it and diss the content, but for that also they'll come back to you. If they know that there's a technology, they'll diss you on your face. But I would love to see that.
Yeah, that is for sure. We love to talk as a race, and I think our opinions far outweigh um, anyone else. Kiran, I have an
Sorry to
imagination.
interrupt. There's just
Yeah,
one
Rohan, sure.
more use case where I feel it can, it can work very well is education. So places where people can't go to places like I have been volunteered in some community radio stations, and there a lot of educational content has been broadcasted through the radio, but it's just a one-way communication. So this kind of setup
Absolutely.
can
I
work
think,
where
Rohan, I think there is
uh,
work underway for that. There was this
hmm,
talk last year, Google for India, and Google's
yeah,
marketing director,
hmm,
Sapna Chadda. She was talking about using audio as a means to
hmm,
use education, especially where video
yeah,
bandwidth are challenges and stuff like that. I
hmm,
think
hmm,
that's a great one there.
yeah,
Kiran, I have an imagination for you. You are into books now. Imagine interactive in the space of book. Book reading clubs have been there forever, and imagine
Right.
there are audio book reading clubs, right? The author himself herself reads the book, and their fans could join in, and it's literally a book reading club. What do you think? You think this kind of experiences would take off?
Absolutely. I have to start though by saying that I generally look at tech innovations, especially in the social media space, as fads. okay, until they're proven wrong, right? We've seen too many innovations that were rage and then they just died off, right? So the Clubhouse example that we're talking about, um, the concept of it is very, very promising. Like you said, right? It's not a new innovation. You know, there are groups, there are interest-based groups on WhatsApp, there are interest-based groups on Telegram, there are book clubs in the traditional sense. All of them, audio is just another medium, right? I mean, they're chatting, but you know, for example, it could be a Sunday book reading club and book appreciation club, and then every Sunday at 10 p.m. everybody logs in, right? And for them, it's just an audio group call, right? So there's no technology thing that they have to download or they have to learn, or there's no steep learning curve either, right? Another example that I can look back is that in the meditation app that I use, they had a groups feature, like, you know, where people could, you know, join together from across the world, right? And do it. And meditation is, you know, just sitting in silence, right? If a concept like that could work in a silent exercise like meditation, it can work definitely in the book space. That's my take.
And thanks for sharing that, Kiran. I think last week in Clubhouse, there was a live session where there was a woman in labor, and hundreds of people were kind of breathing with her. I mean, imagine this. The power of audio has gone to a different level.
Yeah.
Amar and Padma,
So
any
another
insights
example
here?
there,
Yeah, Kiran, sure.
on Reddit, you know, there is like a live streaming or something, right? You know, that comes on the homepage where somebody is doing something interesting, and you know, thousands watch simultaneously. You know, this labor example reminds me of that, and it could be, you know, something else, right? And it could be anything that people are interested in. And I think the interactive thing is going to really pick up, in my opinion.
Thanks, Kiran.
I actually just want to add something here. I think the interactive audio part is not something that is typically new to us. So there is this, you know, CG Swaranet. I don't know if you guys know of CG Swaranet, but they're based out of Chhattisgarh, and what they basically do is, you know, you have a IVR number to which you can call and leave messages saying that कि यहाँ पे आज पानी नहीं आया है, या यहाँ पे रोड आना चाहिए, यहाँ पे डॉक्टर नहीं आ रहे हैं. And they actually fact check it and then they put it out, and they have managed to actually create impact just by getting the voices of people living in that area onto the policymakers, onto the governance. So this is not a new phenomenon, but I guess obviously with the technology evolving, it's taking a newer form. But I think it's always good to remember, like also Rohan was talking about education and community radios. I think we have to constantly remind ourselves that these are all still very elite spaces. These are all, you know, there's the digital divide in India, though it's you know, the gap is shortening. The gap is still there, and I think COVID is a perfect example of how it fell apart. Like only those who go to private schools, for example, bigger private schools, for example, could afford online classes, and you know, those whose children were going to smaller private schools or government schools completely lost out on an entire year of schooling, you know. So I think it's just sort of good to keep that at the back of our mind when we're talking about technological innovations. And I'm with Kiran here when he says that until proven, you know, we can actually think of it as fads, but talking with each other is a very normal form, right? How we do it,
yeah, absolutely.
How we do it is what is different.
It's the
right?
most natural form of communication.
Yeah, so like, you know, you have podcasters doing you know, what are called as Instagram audio lives, right? So you have just people who turn off their video and then they talk. And I know earlier, in fact, Facebook had a Facebook audio live feature, and then they took it off, and I guess they're now going to come back again because Clubhouse is a rage. So I feel like they're there, and it's nothing new, but how do we use it to build communities? How do you sustain those communities? I think that is a bigger game involved, I feel.
Amar, how do you do that? We are asking all difficult questions.
I know, and very interesting set of questions. So I'll agree with her, and then I'll disagree with her in that order. Okay. Classic example, which completely relates to the not just the digital divide part, but also the last mile distribution problem. There was a set of stories that we had prepared for this, certain group of municipal schools in a part of the country. It's still underway, so I'll not mention the any names. The issue there was that the whole design is, of streaming audio, for example, is based on you're going to have good connectivity, electricity, and therefore charging your mobile phone is not going to be a problem. Bandwidth is not an issue. Storage space on your device is not an issue, etc., etc. But now you take even a 1,500 or an 1,800 rupees basic Android phone, suddenly the level of challenges and the complexity of challenges completely becomes different, right? So we decided to do this hybrid online offline model wherein, at the district level, the content would be available online. Somebody downloads it, puts it on an SD card, then they take it to the last mile and then go ahead and insert it into the teacher's phone, and then they can go ahead and play it. It failed because of this, right? Because of lack of electricity, because of lack of, and SD cards in a dusty environment when it's 45, 48 degrees, probably now that describes more than half of India, but, SD cards don't last. So, that's one part of it, that's, I think, as content creators, as in this space, we have been facing challenges, we've tried some solutions, they've not worked. So where is the happy medium there, right? That's one part. Coming to the other side of story, wherein can we make it more interactive? A lot of podcast hosts. So, we host with Spreaker. Our plan includes a certain number of hours every month, wherein you can go ahead and do that. You can have a live show and you can have interaction with the audience and things like that. I'll criticize myself here, or our team over here. We have so much set in our ways wherein, it's one is to many. I create the content and it's heard by many. That either 1:1 or two-way communication feedback, that whole mindset has to change before the available tools can be used, right? So it's a dichotomy of sorts, saying that we are trying to find a solution, which is, we're trying to solve a problem for which solutions are already available, number one. And then we are, on the other hand, grappling with the problem for which solution may not be there yet, right? How do you prioritize? So that's where I would probably leave it at, saying that, find what really is available right now in terms of tools, technologies, etc. Start with a certain group of audience, and then let's see if you can scale it as things evolve.
Thanks, Amar. I think we have like a couple of minutes before it's our end of the session. I want to summarize all the things we discussed, but before that, if each one of you could, if there is anything more to add, or a 30-second summary.
Yeah, just one
yeah.
thing to what Amar said. I strongly feel that not every platform is for everyone. So you may be good at doing something that is pre-recorded, completely superb packaged, and then deliver it. You may be good at that. You may not be good at interacting with people. So know your strengths. And
very well said, Rohan. Very, very simple one, but a very poignant one. Yeah.
And second thing is, these interactive mediums are temporary, like especially Clubhouse. I don't know what they will develop next. They may put an on-demand feature where your conversations are being recorded, but as of now, you're there and then it's gone, it's vanished. Something where Facebook Live and YouTube Live comes into picture. But then again, are you able to deliver that live stream? Do you have that infrastructure? Do you have that skill to be able to speak 40 minutes without goofing up? So you need to be aware about that.
I think that's what Piyush was saying. We are an opinionated bunch of people. Many of us have a lot of opinions and we can talk. And Rohan, yes and no to what you're saying. Okay, thanks all. Let's take 30 seconds to give our summaries, and then I'll summarize, and then we can call it a day.
So I want to end with my 2 cents on the digital divide, right? I think it's a problem that we'll solve soon, right? So I don't think too much about it, because from 2 experiences I can tell you. Every year we conduct a Telugu competition for 10th class students, right? And each year it's growing more and more. We have the support of the school education departments also of each Telugu state. So it gets pretty penetrated into remotest parts of the state. And this year, especially because of COVID, and the distinction was stark. It requires a smartphone to do that, right? And primarily the participants are from Jilla Parishad high schools, right? And these are students who belong to that weaker economic sections. And we have the largest participation from them. Second thing is that we also gave out, we developed free 10th class Telugu paper material, because we want to, kids to learn the language. And so we want them to score high in the Telugu subject, because it's generally ignored. Again, that, a lot of people access that from remotest parts of the states. So I think I'm bullish on that. So and also, if you consider that WhatsApp and YouTube are the most accessed platforms in the remotest parts of the country, so I think it's not something that I would worry too much about, and then just focus on building great content and try to deliver value.
Thanks, Kiran. Fellow panel, any closing notes, please?
I think Kiran mentioned WhatsApp. Let me just build a little bit on that, because we've done some experimentation and we've had some success in it. Use the broadcast feature of WhatsApp. It's still limited to 256. Hopefully they'll raise it at certain point in time. The advantage that it offers is that definitely people can, it's one click or at the most 2 clicks and the content is available for them. The downside is WhatsApp compresses the audio. So the experience may not be great, but the content can very quickly reach the last mile, right? To counter to my earlier point. So definitely there will be other tools that will be around. They may be better, faster, less bandwidth intensive, etc. Keep experimenting. That would be my, I would say 2 cents on this matter.
Thanks, Amar. Piyush?
I would go back to the topic that brought all of us together, and that is the regional languages. Are they strong enough? Do they have the will and the guts to take on? Yes, I do. I think the problem was with us. Say, for example, stand-up comedy was considered an art form of the elite, and it started with English stand-up comedy. But look at the circuit now. A lot of mushrooming of the regional Tamil, Telugu, Hindi artists coming up. So I think we were just following somebody with a Lincoln hat and standing on a tool and telling that, okay, English is the content, and that's how everything was supposed to happen. But as and when we are very strong in our own regional languages, and that's a very potent tool or a weapon, if I may put it that way. People think, eat, sleep in their language. My wife is a Tamilian. She speaks her own language inside her house, but when she steps out, she talks to whosoever in whichever language they want to. So that's the thing. Regional language. They have made a slogan for it: vocal for local. It was always there. It's just I think it was something on our part, a mistake on our part, that we didn't realize the potential earlier. And now we are just thinking that, oh, yes, this is it.
Padma, any closing notes from you?
Sort of agreeing and maybe adding on to what Piyush just said. I think we have to constantly remind ourselves that oral storytelling has been here since millions of years now. Since mankind began to communicate, oral storytelling is the oldest form. Audio is here to stay. Our languages are here to stay. So we make the most of the medium and of our language and our strengths in them. And anybody who is sort of wanting to get into it, don't hesitate, jump into it, do it. Play on your strengths, and give it your best shot. And I think just the vast amount of literature that's also out there for us, the kind of stories that are out there. I mean, the potential honestly is limitless. Whichever sort of a niche you want to take, I think for me, it's like a no-brainer, honestly. So yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I will have a quick summary. Some of the things that really stood out, especially when Piyush said audio is the theater of the mind, and even if you are listening to it passively, you are listening to it, which is what makes it the most powerful medium. And I really like what Padma said about audio is literacy agnostic. That really makes it inclusive, and it makes it really potential to reach anyone across any age group, any income group, any ethnic group. It's really, audio is that versatile. And I like what Amar said about get the cultural nuances right, the dialects right. When you are moving from one language to other, you can't just translate and get it going. You need to pay attention to the voices. You need to pay attention to the dialects and nuances. And talking of interactive audio, I agree with what I like and agree with what Rohan said. Not every medium is good for everyone. Maybe you are good in doing on-demand, fully packaged, podcast. but maybe you are not good at real-time conversations. So don't try everything. And Kiran gave us a lot of insights on vernacular apps are usually crappy, and it doesn't have to be. And when the app experience is good, people like it and respect it. And also the insight Kiran shared is people relate to their language and they see it as a cultural preservation for this and the future generations to come. And that's a very insight, very very deep insight that why people like to appreciate and listen or read content in their own languages. So with that, let's end the webinar, and really really happy to be in the 4th episode of the Radio Festival, and hope to see you all guys in a physical world. Grab some coffee. Thank you so much, and see you soon.